meteorologist Kyle Puck from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Drink locally and support local business during Lincoln's Craft Beer Week, October 20th through the 26th. Great beer, cider, distillates, and more are made right here in Lincoln. For more info, visit lincoln.org/beer-week. Brought to you by Visit Lincoln. Remember to enjoy responsibly.
Have you been accused of a crime and don't know where to turn? At Liberty Law Group, we understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you're up against the legal system, you need an advocate you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. Liberty Law's experienced trial attorneys are committed to the defense of liberty for those accused. Don't let a criminal charge ruin your life. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you need, advocates you deserve. That's 877-42-LIBERTY or libertylawnebraska.com.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road.
What a day. I could sure use an afternoon pick-me-up.
Hold up, the new 93.7 The Ticket location has a milk, coffee, and tea inside? Oh yeah, this is a game changer.
Need an afternoon pick-me-up? How about a coffee or smoothie on your way to work? Stop by the Ticket Mill location on 1040 O Street to get your go-to drink or try out our new game day drinks exclusive to the Ticket Mill location. We know it'll make your day a million times better.
A team succeeds when they work together. Banking's no different. At UBT, we're in your corner for every financial move you want to make. Your money's backed by a roster of experts who put in the work to know you and your community. So whether you're opening a savings account, buying a home, or planning your future, you always know who to turn to. Working together toward your financial goals. That's a win in our playbook. Union Bank and Trust. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Welcome in to the Corner 3. Taking you around the arc of college basketball. From the NAAC to the Pac-12, the WCC to the SWAC. We cover it all now on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Welcome to it. This is the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I am Austin Oerman. Find me on Twitter at Austin_Oerman. Follow the show, tweet the show, all that good stuff there. Or drop a text, 402-464-5685. We got just under an hour, probably about 45 minutes or so before we get you out to Aaron Davis Field. Seacrest Field, home of East versus Southeast tonight. Jay Foreman, Nick Sainer on the call. But if you caught the end of Old School, you will know that I'm joined once again by the host of the Stretch Big podcast, writer for Huskers Illustrated, Jacob Bigelow, here for the Corner 3. We're diving into kind of some big picture coaching topics here tonight, starting with who's the face of college basketball. At least I assume that's a coaching topic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But then we're going to draft our top 8 college coaches, snake style. So we'll get to that in the second segment of the show. 402-464-5685, the number if you've got any of your own thoughts. Jacob, let's just start with the face of college basketball. How do you define face of college basketball? What went into that for you formulating your thought process?
If you're asking someone, like, when you think of college basketball, what do you think? Like the classic, like, word association game, like fill in the blank, like
word cloud.
Like, what's the first? Yeah, word cloud. Oh, word clouds. Man, what happened to word
Throwback.
clouds? What happened to word clouds? They were all over the place when I was.
They went the way of silly bands.
They don't. Oh, now we're just gonna start reminiscing. But those, it's just like the casual basketball observer, maybe someone who doesn't tune in to the college game until the tournament, like. Who are the characters?
Mm-hmm.
That plays into another thing that played into it. The characters that most people associate when they think of college basketball. Like if you're someone who has not watched a second of college hoops until March, and you get a bracket in your hand and you're looking at it, who are the people like just by seeing team names,
mm-hmm.
the first things that come to your mind?
Is it the guys, the people that CBS will put on its opening montage? Or is that just for casuals?
Depends. I think it could be. It could be. It's dependent on how the season goes, obviously. But there are some mainstays that have been there for a while that are going to be in that montage on Selection Sunday. They'll have cameras watching their team, waiting for their names to be called. That whole deal. But I think it's. It definitely can come down to perception. But I think if you're thinking of the face of the sport, you got to think the most widely recognized, widely known in my own words, character in the sport.
All right, so let's get into it. We'll have spin-off questions from there. Who's your face?
I think we may be in agreement. I think it's Danny Hurley. And I think that especially, I think it's even more so now this offseason because he's the guy who turned down the Lakers. I
Right.
think he will supposedly turn down the Lakers, depending on who you ask.
Or Kentucky.
Yes, or Kentucky. There was flirtation. And he's also won back-to-back national championships. And if you're just a casual college basketball observer, you're like, oh, he's the bald, crazy guy with glasses who yells a lot, and nobody likes him except for his own fan base. That would be how some people probably know Danny Hurley. If you know Danny Hurley's full backstory, and I talked about this with Tate Frazier on my podcast, like he was his older brother Bobby was the star recruit, played at Duke.
Golden Boy, the
Golden
one needling
Boy.
Leitner.
Yes, absolutely. The guy who got into Christian Leitner, the whole thing. Their father is the greatest high school coach in the history of New Jersey high school basketball,
which is saying something.
At St. Anthony's, and he's the reason Woj is famous. Like Woj writes a book about St. Anthony's, and his career just takes off. Like the dominoes that start with the Hurley family, they spread wide, and just in the background, in the shadows, while Bobby was the golden boy and their father was, racking up wins at St. Anthony's, Danny, he played at Rhode Island. He had an okay career, but his rise in coaching from Wagner to Rhode Island to UConn, it was pretty quick. And he, I remember when he was the coach at Rhode Island because he coached against Nebraska twice.
Right.
I remember those days.
Because that was out in some invitational, wasn't it?
No, they had the home and home. Remember?
Oh,
because
Nebraska
Nebraska went there.
That's Russell.
Yes. Nebraska
Yep.
Nebraska played a true road game at Rhode Island as a ranked team and lost.
That's right.
And got the court stormed on them.
That's right.
And then they lost here in the return game. Danny Hurley took an L a couple blocks that way as the coach of Rhode Island. But I think between that and there's plenty of layers to his story, and it can go from if you're just a guy who knows him as the crazy loud guy, or if you can dig a little deeper and get into his backstory. I think he's the face of college basketball right now.
He also has the social media game down, like picking fights with the nerds too. Like the funniest part about that to me is that Dan Hurley absolutely buys into the numbers. He runs that NBA stuff. He knows what he's doing, but he also has that. I'm going to make this comparison. I'm not saying he's him yet. It is a Saban-like or Jordan-like ability to find the smallest slight and amplify it to 1,000. That feeds the megalomania that people see.
Oh, Dan Hurley has definitely called press clippings rat poison. He most certainly has told his players to not fall for the rat poison. That is definitely something that he said, and he's in that same vein, right? Even if he's up big or if he's a game's in hand, he's still really he can look like he's pissed off like Saban. It's in very similar veins, similar mannerisms. Saban was not as didn't have the flair for the dramatic like Danny. He's definitely, I don't think fans had as much of the hate relationship that some of the schools in the Big East have with Danny. But
which Big East school hates Dan Hurley the most?
The one 50 miles away from here.
Okay, that's my guess.
I think it's without question the one up the road. They are not big fans of his, and they will gladly remind you what his record is against Creighton and final scores and everything of that nature. They will gladly remind you what it usually goes like for Danny Hurley when he comes to Omaha.
There's a lot of different directions to go with this too. So let's just go with, who did Dan Hurley take the mantle of face of college basketball from?
Would you say the face was Coach K until he retired?
That's the way I was leaning, because I think that some people would have said, no, it wasn't Coach K because he wasn't as successful on his way out, but he made a Final Four in his last year. And I think the way that everything played out brought Coach K back to the forefront, right? We know that Duke brings eyeballs and everything, but I think that after the title, he had those couple down years that weren't as good. You get the Zion hype, and I think Zion passed K for the face of college basketball in that 18-19 season. then he kind of fades to the background as, Scott Drew's popping up. Mark Few gets Gonzaga, close. Jay Wright took over there in that interim as well. So I think we were starting to have the changing of the guard from K to probably Jay Wright, but then Wright retires, and then it leaves a void. Is Bill Self going to step up into that? He didn't. Tom Izzo wasn't ready for the moment with Michigan State going downhill. So I think we went 3-4 years without a true face to get the perfect storm of Dan Hurley as the face of college basketball. That's where I'm at with it.
I completely agree. And I think we saw, and you talked about this with Zion, we've had a run in recent years of what I call push notification players.
Yeah.
Like the people you're getting ESPN notifications on your phone for, no matter what they do. Like the last 2 years, I'd say the face of college basketball was not in the men's game. I would say it was Caitlin Clark.
Valid.
And she may be the biggest push notification player of all time. But when you think about guys like that, you think Zion, you think Trey Young, you think, guys who, if they had big
Edie
games.
didn't have that.
Nope.
Sheboy didn't have that.
Nope. And if they have big games, they have highlights, you're going to hear about it one way or another, and it's going to feel unavoidable. But I think, and that could be, I think Cooper Flagg's probably a push notification player this year, but I don't think he's the face of the sport. I think it's going to be, I know this because I got notifications for the blue and white scrimmage at Countdown to Craziness when he took the floor at Cameron for the first time. I think you'll be getting push notifications for Cooper Flagg, but I think he'll be near the top of the discourse this season, but I don't think he's the face of the game.
That's an interesting one because we will get the Cooper Flagg push notifications because of everything he did against Team USA, right? I get the hype for Cooper Flagg. I am bought in. I love him, but I've been saying this all off season. I don't think Cooper Flagg is the type of push notification player that Zion was. No. Zion was the high flying dunks, the fireworks. Look at his crazy efficiency doing like baby Shaq numbers and whatnot. Cooper's that intangible flow of the game defensive guy. He'll have a highlight block here or there. He'll cross someone up occasionally, but he's so low-key and understated in a way that Zion wasn't, right? Not to say he doesn't do exciting stuff, but I think that it's the perfect storm for Duke because they're going to get the hate. People are going to be tired about hearing Cooper Flagg think he's overrated. Oh, what's he actually doing? His numbers aren't that great. That he's going to fill that void that Duke's had for next great white player. They've really been missing since, gosh, you don't want to go all the way. Well, Grayson Allen, probably. It should have been Alex O'Connell. It was not. Alex O'Connell had the perfect streak. Joey Baker was always too much of a role player. And between Dunleavy before Reddick into yet another gap there. No, not really a gap. He went Reddick into like Singler and Shire and Paulus into the Plumleys into Grayson Allen. But the Plumleys weren't great. Anyways, all that to say, college basketball is so different from the NBA. NBA is such a player-driven league, right? We talk about the player movement in the NBA, and that's fine because I think the league has pushed players as the face. Player empowerment era, free agency, superstars forcing trades. Your college timeline is still so finite. It's hard to have a face. Like it took Luka Garza a couple years. Caitlin Clark, her timeline ran out. Zach Edey, his time was always going to come. To me, college basketball needs to push the players, but it's never going to have the same success as the NBA. It's not as national. It's so much more regional. To me, college basketball is healthiest when a coach is the face because they can stick at a school for a while.
Yeah, I completely agree. And college basketball is so much about the coaches, the programs they run, the systems they're known for. Like what you think of, back to that, word association game. When you think of Baylor basketball, you think Scott Drew, you think tough defense, you think offense that can sometimes not be easy on the eyes. When you think Kansas,
hey, they got a new camera angle, so it won't hurt as bad.
They did fix that finally. When you think Kansas basketball, you think Bill Self, you think Allen Fieldhouse, you think history, you think tradition,
you think Snoop Dogg and everything. No.
You think the fact that Bill Self has been running some of the same post-entry feed sets for 20 plus years
and they still work.
Like if you're playing Kansas, like you can go back to Nick Collison and the film looks the same as it will look this season with Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams, because they will be running some of the same sets that have been since he first got there. And I completely agree with you. And that's one of the main differentiators between college and the pros is coaches. Coaches elevate the some of the players in the NBA. Like if you get to go play for Steve Kerr, you get to go play for Greg Popovich. It's like, oh, so and so gets to play
Spoelstra.
for It's like, oh, so and so gets to play for Greg Popovich. It's we'll see how that coach can help that player. And it starts and not starts, but a big part of it, the college game, is these coaches and these programs.
And I think that brings us full circle back to Dan Hurley, who I think that, well, let me be honest, none of the coaches I'm going to mention care. They're focused on their own teams, their own programs. They don't care. But it's also an ego-driven industry, right? Dan Hurley right now is flavor of the month. Seems like it has staying power, but right now, it's flavor of the month. It's 2 years, maybe 3 of success. Like, Bill Self's not taking offense, but I don't think either one of us considered him. John Calipari has had plenty of moments in the sun. He has been a main character in college basketball, but to me, it was always like, if it was Coach K is the face, like the Brady or the Manning of the NFL, John Calipari was like Ben Roethlisberger or something, right? Like always good, always in the conversation, but rarely the main character, waiting for that other guy to pass. Tom Izzo missed his moment. Rick Pitino's been in and out of the game, and Mark Few's coaching at Gonzaga. Like all those guys have so many more years of consistent, sustained success, but you cannot make an argument for any of them over Dan Hurley right now.
Nope, can't, unless you want to hand out lifetime achievement awards. That's kind of would be your only way to do it, and that plays into my strategy for this draft here
there
upcoming.
You go. Okay,
but I don't think you can make an argument right now for at least for coaches. You can't make an argument against Dan Hurley.
So if it's not Dan Hurley and you're not handing out lifetime achievement awards, who are other guys you considered for the face?
Oh, the transfer portal doesn't have a face.
Ooh,
so
there you go.
You can't see, it's not, it's the transfer portal, the idea of the transfer portal, whatever. I'm sure someone, will plug into AI. What would the transfer portal look like as a person? But that's up there in the discussion for sure. You could think about it's not because Edie's gone. I mean, that's a tough question right now. Is it the Big Ten's
Jalen Coleman Lands? Is that the face of the transfer portal?
Is it the Big Ten's title drought? Does that have a face? Is that the face? And is that face just Tom Izzo's grumpy old man face? Is that the face of the Big Ten's 20-year title drought? And he's in his elf shirt too.
Yes,
That's the Tom Izzo elf shirt gif. Is that the face of the Big Ten's national title drought? Yeah, that's a great question, because if it's not coaches, it's kind of tough. And that's what you hear it all the time with, it's hard for me to get into these teams because they change every year and the faces are the same, and what happened to 4-year players. But I mean, there are definitely ideas that could be considered the forefront of the discourse, but ideas don't have faces. So
that part, I bet we're going to be on the same page for this one, so I'm going to run it past you real quick. Matt Painter is the face of the Big Ten. True or false?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're on the same page with that one. It's not Izzo. His moment's passed. They're fading. Underwood is close. He's got the character part.
Yeah. I've made my feelings known about Brad Underwood quite a bit. I think he's a really good recruiter. He clearly has an archetype of player that he really, really likes. But outside of that, I don't know if I have more questions about Brad Underwood, the basketball coach, than I do about some other teams that are in higher regard. And that is not a recent thing. That goes back to when I was a student manager in the Big Ten and made the trip to Champaign, and there's a lot that goes into that, and I don't hold any grudges. I'm not a petty human being.
Hey,
But,
speaking of Champaign, Fighting Illini are in town for volleyball tonight.
Indeed, they are. The Riley Bowl Part 2. Bergen and Reagan going at again, playing each other one final time.
Black shorts on the black court.
Indeed,
How about that?
Black Terraflex at the Bob tonight. It's back. A former athletic director is punching air somewhere, but I think Yeah, it's an interesting time for Illinois athletics. That's actually, that's a funny thing to think about. There's no school in the Big Ten whose AD loves being out and more visible than Josh Whitman at Illinois. But when you've got football going the way it's going, the basketball's been on, volleyball's, they're always gonna, play tough. The Big Ten's a gauntlet, but it's not too shabby of a time in Champaign for Illini athletics.
I'm not raising a glass of it to him yet, but we'll see. Let's take our first break of the show. When we get back, we are drafting our 8-man college basketball coach rotations. Austin Oerman, Jacob Bigelow, corner 3. We'll be right back.
You're counting on your team to win, so why not prove it? By placing your bets at Warhorse Sportsbook. Their win is your win. Put your money where your mouth is on nearly every sporting event. Use the Warhorse app to check odds and build your bets before placing your wagers in person at Warhorse Casino, including live in-game betting. No bets, no glory. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
The Rabbit Hole Bakery, located at 8th and Q in the Haymarket, is the ideal place for fresh breakfast items or desserts made daily. Cream puffs, cinnamon rolls, carrot cake, sweet potato pecan cookies, brownies, blondies. Do I need to keep going? What about bread pudding with homemade bourbon caramel sauce? Stop by the Rabbit Hole Bakery at 8th and Q in the Haymarket today to satisfy your cravings. And if you're looking for larger group orders, they do that too. Order ahead on their website at therabbitholebakery.com today.
This is State Senator Carolyn Bozin. Public safety is important in our community. I have a proven record of protecting public safety. I have prosecuted perpetrators of domestic violence, advocated for the rights of child abuse victims, held sexual predators accountable, and fought to keep drug traffickers off our streets. This is Senator Carolyn Bozin, and I will continue to fight to keep our community safe. Vote Carolyn Bozin on November 5th. Paid for by Bozin for Legislature.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see lots of sunshine with a light breeze out of the north and a high around 65. Tonight, clear skies and calm winds, the low around 36. And tomorrow, we'll see increasing clouds throughout the day with an afternoon high around 64. I'm meteorologist Kyle Clucker from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Have you been accused of a crime and don't know where to turn? At Liberty Law Group, we understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you're up against the legal system, you need an advocate you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. Liberty Law's experienced trial attorneys are committed to the defense of liberty for those accused. Don't let a criminal charge ruin your life. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you need, advocates you deserve. That's 877-42-LIBERTY or libertylawnebraska.com.
This show's pretty rockin', huh?
Yeah, I'm so glad my State Farm agent helped me go.
Huh?
My State Farm agent. They help me with options to personalize my auto insurance to get a great rate that fits my budget, so I don't have to give up the things I love.
Wow. Hey, so do you think I could get your State Farm agent's number?
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Kreekak, at 402-474-1173.
Individual premiums and budgets will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Garage doors can be expensive. Are you keeping yours in the best condition possible? This is Cameron Hall with Doors Plus. Doors Plus is a locally owned business that prides itself on the fast, reliable, and friendly service. Doors Plus offers flexible scheduling so you can book an appointment that fits your busy day. My team and I will come out to your property, both commercial and residential, and provide you with the necessary information you need to make sure your garage door is in working and smooth condition. Give Doors Plus a call today at 402-590-5800 to book an appointment and learn more about our preventative maintenance plans. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Back to the corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
That was an all-timer during break. Good thing that's not recorded. But welcome back to the corner 3. Austin Oerman, Jacob Bigelow with you. We're getting into our college basketball coaches draft. We're drafting a rotation. We settled on 8. When you get to March, is that your preferred rotation, 8-man, or you keep it tighter?
I think 8 would be my preferred.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely. I like depth. I want options. So I think when it comes down to brass tacks, 8 is kind of the perfect number. I'm not a basketball coach. I just wanted to be one. Once upon a time.
Are you a mix and match guy? Or are you a stick to the play and trust your rotations. My guys will figure it out eventually guy?
I'm a mix and match guy for sure. Situational matchup dependence. People would call that a nerd. That is what I would be as a coach. Looks can sometimes be deceiving, but my look is not. So that would be my approach.
On brand. All right. So before we get into this draft, just kind of big picture, what's your criteria for the draft picks that you're looking at?
Kind of my thought, when I proposed this idea to you, kind of my thought was big picture. If you are an athletic director at insert name here university, you have a blank check and you want to win. You just want to be a basketball powerhouse, and you are upstart university. You've never had basketball before, but you've got money, and we always heard about Bill Moose's list in the desk. This would be my imaginary list in the desk of basketball coaches in the country who I think right now are at the top of the game.
I like it. I didn't put any strict criteria on it, but when I was going through, I was just throwing names at a wall for the most part, but I had to group them, right? I have a group of established Power 5 guys, established group of 5 guys, some up-and-comers, guys that are phasing out, guys that I might take a flyer on, and guys that are reestablishing their value. I'm not going to take one from every category. That just kind of helped me get my own personal thoughts together. So, Jacob, you are the guest. You won the coin toss and everything. First pick of the draft belongs to you.
We talked about him in segment 1. He's the face of the sport. He's won the last 2 national championships. College basketball needs characters, and right now there's no greater character in the sport than Danny Hurley, the head coach of Connecticut men's basketball. So he is, without question, my number 1 pick.
I am glad you didn't get too cute with that one. No. Didn't think you would.
Nope.
It leaves me a lot of directions here at number 2, because while I am not in the business of handing out lifetime achievement awards, there's some darn good coaches who have been doing it for a while. But with my first pick, I want the high upside guy. I want the guy that has had some success that you can point to, that plays a modern style of basketball that I'm going to enjoy watching. I'm going down to Tuscaloosa.
Ooh.
I'm taking Nate Oates as my first overall pick. Pace and space, play fast, not a lot of defense, but I like the way he builds the roster. He's a good enough recruiter from the high school ranks, really solid in the transfer portal. Finally broke through to the Final Four last year. I see Nate Oates as a good coach and still rising. So he's my first pick.
And people like to forget he was a high school coach and math teacher 11 years ago. And he coached in the Final Four a year ago.
He did.
A very rapid rise for Coach Oates.
Who did he upset at Buffalo?
That's a good question.
Because it was a 4-13.
Oh, I don't remember, but I remember I remember the game.
Arizona.
It's
always Arizona.
Yep, it's always Arizona. If you're thinking tournament upsets, it's there's a good chance.
And that wasn't even close. 89-68.
Yep. No,
Wow.
I almost forgot about that. But yeah, no. Quick, rapid rise for Coach Oates. I think Alabama is going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. They're going to be very deep. They're going to shoot a ton of threes, and they've still got a fellow Omaha Central Eagle on the roster. So I will not be opposed to watching some Tide hoops this year.
I am. The Cliff Amore edition put them over the top for me. Is he a superstar? No. He's going to play his role, and I think that's what they needed.
Yeah, especially the games where they looked the most vulnerable last year was when they tried to have Grant Nelson be a true 5, and they bring in a true 5, and they can say, Grant, go do your thing, go be Dakota Durant, go play on the perimeter. And I think that puts them over the top.
Okay, your second pick, Jacob.
So this will be my one instance of a Lifetime Achievement Award. Far too many people in my life are Kansas fans, Kansas grads, Kansas alums. I grew up on a street where there were like 4 houses of Kansas fans just within throwing distance of my own home. So I have to choose Bill Self with my second pick. And I know
scandals don't worry you?
Scandals do not worry me because it's all legal now. And scandals do not worry me. We talked about it in the last segment. They're running some of the same sets that they've been running for 20 years. I don't know how long he's got left, but when you have done what you've done at Kansas, which I think is the most historic, college basketball program from top to bottom.
Just ask him.
Just ask him. He'll gladly tell you, and he'll gladly use the phrase "shiny new penny" to describe the renovations to Allen Fieldhouse. But I think they're going to be, I don't know, the last couple times they've been the preseason number 1, they've gotten upset. They haven't, I think they haven't made
the Sweet 16 as
preseason number 1. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how that cookie crumbles. But I think at the end of the day, Bill Self's going to win you some ball games.
Do you think this is the year they break that preseason number 1 curse and punch through to the second weekend and beyond? Do you like the team enough?
I like the pieces. I don't know. Well, they're getting ready to play here in an hour and a half down in Fayetteville, a little charity exhibition against the Fighting Chicken Nuggets of John Calipari. But I'm interested to see what that group looks like. I really like Zeke Mayo. I really like AJ Storr. Hunter Dickinson. You don't need to hear me talk about him at length. I'll refer you to my last podcast episode. But I like the pieces. I'm just interested to see how it comes together. That's my biggest question with them this season.
I'm sticking in the Big 12 for my second pick. Little bit more of a lifetime achievement award, but also a guy that at one point fell in the reestablishing value category. It's the team that knocked Kansas off the throne last year. I got Kelvin Sampson.
That's a great pick.
I went offense with my first pick. I'm going defense with my second. I have been on the Houston train for a few years. They've let me down, have made it, have punched through before, so I know Kelvin Sampson can do it. You know everything that happened at Indiana. I think he's a darn good ball coach. He's going to establish his guys out of high school, plug and play as he can out of the transfer portal, but that's not necessarily the strength of his game. But sneaky, if I get Kelvin Sampson, I think I get Kellen. And I think I have my next guy. I assume that that's a package deal. So I'm hiring Kelvin, but I'm also kind of hiring Kellen as well. So I feel like I got a 2-for-1 at my second pick.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick. I was thinking in my head between Self and Kelvin. I think
you left me my preferred option.
Absolutely. And you just got it with Kelvin Sampson. You just got to think about what his career would have been if not for the way it ended in Indiana, which, the way it ended is just, it's hilarious to look back on now, given the current state of recruiting and the game as a whole. But you just got to think that, his coaching story, when it comes to a close, may be incomplete, but I think he's going to find a way to end it, on a good note.
Before we get to your third pick, Indiana has had basically the same coach since he left. Crean to Archie to Mike Woodson. Yeah, they're not the same guy, but the results have been the same. Crean at least popped up there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there are some Indiana fans who are just like, who the last 2 openings bring back Kelvin Sampson. Like, there's been people who've just like, you think Kelvin Sampson would come back? Like, there's just a few. We could do a whole show about the Venn diagram of Indiana basketball and Nebraska football being the same program. But it's definitely been an interesting run for IU hoops, and it's kind of a make or break here in Bloomington this year, given their group. But that's an excellent pick for you at 2, for sure.
Who's your 3?
Matt Painter. And I know some people are gonna, scoff. They're gonna, think, what has he won without Zach Edey? They got it handed to him in the national championship game. I think for me, it's more about the person Matt Painter is, just the way he goes about his business. My good friend Wilson Moore at the Omaha World Herald, he did a feature story on Painter at his previous stop in Indianapolis. And at one point he's talking to Robbie Hummel about Robbie Hummel rehabbing in West Lafayette and staying at Painter's house. And Painter just knocking on his door one morning. Hey, Rob, you want a waffle? We're making waffles this morning. How you feeling, buddy? And just like being a normal, like every day, just a normal dude. And that's very rare in coaching in any sport. Like coaches are going to be wired different, from top to bottom. But I think Matt Painter, the person he is, the program he runs, it's the consistency, there's an identity with Purdue basketball. And if you're one of his guys, you're one of his guys. They have no portal guys this year, which some people may also scoff at, turn their nose up at. But I think there's a lot of layers to Painter, the way he goes about his business. And I think he's, and on top of it, Micah Shrewsbury decided to bring the Brad Stevens offense to West Lafayette, and since then the offense has looked pretty as well. So
okay, 2 questions before my third pick. Number 1, if Brad Stevens was still coaching college basketball, would he have been off your board by now?
Yes.
Okay, same. Second question then. Who is more of the Dabo Swinney of college basketball? Is it Painter or is it Shaka?
Ooh, the Dabo. I won't.
Because neither of them are using at least not this offseason, or neither of them are using the transfer portal. Painter at least went and got Lance Jones.
But see, Dabo has natties.
He does.
So is Dabo Izzo?
Okay.
Because of like how rare they they take Frankie Fiddler this year, but that was the first time. I mean, I know they took Tyson Walker out of the portal from Northeastern, but I mean,
like that, yeah.
The amount of portal guys going into East Lansing is few and far between. I mean, Frankie Fiddler, Joey Hauser, Tyson Walker, those are kind of the only three that I think of. So, I mean, obviously Clemson football's natties weren't 20 years ago, but I think that might be the closest parallel.
Yeah, I like your options better. This is why we have you on the pod. All right, this is kind of an inflection point on my big board for me because I can go a couple different directions. I'm between two established guys and a guy that I'm going to put in the up-and-comer category. And I think I'm going to stick with the establishment for now. Give me Mark Few.
Good pick.
I'm going to take Mark Few.
Good pick.
I mean, I am going to raise my hand and cop to writing Gonzaga off the way they started last year. I was out on the Zags. I didn't think they'd be able to get it together in time to win the WCC or sneak in as an at-large team. Kentucky goes there. They pull that game out of their butt up in the Pacific Northwest. They find a way to do it. And then he gets that offense humming. Talk about identity, right? That is an offense first, second, and third program. They have the international pipeline. They're getting a little better at plug and play from the transfer portal. And if you talk about a program build, I mean, Dan Monson left Gonzaga in a pretty good spot. Few took it to the next level, right? It's not quite to the degree that John Cook took over from Terry Pettit, right? Pettit won the Natty, had that program really rolling. John Cook ascended. I know Few doesn't have the ring, but the slipper still fits, right? I'm going to use the corny Rothstein line. I have to. They're Cinderella, but they're not at the same time. So he builds a program, and I earned more respect for the identity of that program, who they are leaning into it last year, after I erased them from the page, scribbled their name out with Sharpie.
Yeah, I've earned a lot more respect for Gonzaga. Well, they've earned my respect more since Tommy Lloyd left. Because I kind of, I'm serious.
Tommy Lloyd, not on Jacob Bigelow's big board.
Well, no. Tommy Lloyd did a lot for that program.
Oh,
that international pipeline is because of Tommy Lloyd.
And you see he's doing it again at Arizona.
He's doing it again at Arizona. And Mark Few, I mean, here's all you need to say. If someone wants to question you, Mark Few, question Gonzaga, there's one program in this country that's got 9 straight Sweet 16s. It's Gonzaga basketball. That's the one and only answer.
Yeah. Okay, we are through 3 players. We got 2 more to go in our starting lineup, then we'll round out our bench. Pick 4, Jacob.
Pick number 4. This is going to be, folks may consider this a reach, but with what he's got going on, we're sticking in the Big 12. We're sticking in a coaching tree that's close to here.
I think I know where we're going, but lay it on me.
You don't like it, do you? His shirts may look a little too tight.
Yep, I knew it.
But he's gonna get his teams to play some defense. TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State, man. And it's the defense that they're gonna play. He has been a really, really good recruiter. Prior to the NIL era, he was at Iowa State with 3 head coaches. He was there with McDermott. He was there with Fred. He was there with Steve Prohm. Finally gets his shot, goes to South Dakota State, has Mike Dahm, recruits Baylor Shireman. There's all sorts.
David Jenkins Jr.
David Jenkins, who follows him to UNLV.
People forget Oates stopped at UNLV.
People do forget that.
And they shouldn't.
Yeah, no. And he has, he's an Iowa State guy through and through. He's, the family ties. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's in it for the long haul in Ames. And Iowa State is going to be a grind you to death team this coming season. And I think some people may consider that a reach, but I'm putting a lot into it. I'm putting, program style of play and then recruiting too in the modern day of college hoops. So I'll take TJ.
As you look at this Iowa State program, do you see them having enough offense to be Houston, or are they destined to be middle of the country Virginia?
I don't think they're going to be middle of the country, Virginia, because I mean, I think
like peak Virginia.
Oh yeah. But I think if TJ needs some sets to draw up, he's got 2 guys he can call, both here locally, who will gladly dig into their bag of tricks to help him out to draw some sets up. I think they've got one of the best point guards in America this year. They'll have some shooting. I think they'll be a really fun team to watch.
Okay, this is where I'll go to my I don't. Yeah, I'm going to leave this coach on the board in hopes that you don't take him and then regret it when you do.
Okay.
I'm going to Durham. I'm going to Durham.
Woo!
The recruiting success that Duke had under Coach K was John Shire.
Mm-hmm.
You bring him in, and
Absolutely.
Nate James does his part. Chris Carrawell does his part, but John Shire's the closer. He gets you in the door. He's knocking on the door repeatedly, and he's the closer. First year, bit of a bummer loss in the round of 32 to Tennessee, but that was his first year. They just got outmanned, right? That was a grown man Tennessee team, forgivable. You come back the next year, and I was disappointed in the moment, and I still am, given you couldn't beat NC State twice with all that on the table. So I may be a little bit concerned about the big picture, but again, you beat an upstart James Madison team. You get dirty and beat Houston. Yeah, Jamal Shed was out, but that was a similar test to Tennessee the year before with a decent chunk of returning players. And they passed that test. They make it 2 rounds further. And again, the recruiting, he's got Coach K on speed dial. I just think the ceiling is there for John Shire. I'm willing to take the flyer.
I respect that. I definitely do. And I hope that this next guy I'm going to take is the guy you left on the board. Sticking in the Big 12.
Yep.
Waco, Texas.
Damn you.
Scott Drew.
Shouldn't have done it.
It felt like it was a cliche for many, many years. Is Scott Drew a good coach? They get over the hump in the COVID year, winning that national championship with that stacked team. Been some questions about the way they played defense since Jerome Tang departed. But, I mean, Scott Drew just keeps on putting assistants into head coaching jobs. You know what you're getting with them. If you don't know the name VJ Edgecombe, get ready to know the name VJ Edgecombe because he is going to have a huge year for the Bears. Give me Scott Drew.
I like it. Rounding out my starting rotation is going to be another up-and-comer that I believe in, Dusty May. He's back in the Big Ten. He's got the roots. Is he liable to leave for the Indiana job? Maybe. But he's at Michigan, a program that we know will invest in basketball, brought that FAU program up, recruited really well to Michigan. I don't see him, shooting the moon year one, but I think Dusty May's a Big Ten guy. I think he found his home in the right conference at least. And I'm pretty happy with getting Dusty May here at pick number 10.
Yeah, you stole my late round. You stole one of my late round guys.
Aha!
I have been at the front of the Dusty May train. He tugged at my heartstrings at Big Ten Media Day, talking about how his early memories were getting to stay up past curfew for Big Monday and Super Tuesday. Me too, Dusty. Me too. So I'm interested to see how that goes in Ann Arbor this year. I think that's a pretty good pick.
All right. So your starting lineup of coaches, Dan Hurley, Bill Self, Matt Painter, TJ Otzelberger, and Scott Drew. My starting lineup, Nate Oates, Kelvin Sampson, Mark Few, John Shire, and Dusty May. We got 3 spots to round out our rotations. Pick number 6 for you.
I said I wasn't doing Lifetime Achievement Awards. I'm going to go back on that one last time because this guy
deserves it.
They always turn their season around. No matter how slow they start, they're going to pop up in a bracket and you're going to go like, well, there they are again. It's Dan Altman at Oregon.
Okay.
He's been doing his thing for out there forever now. He's got the continuity. Him and Kevin McKenna, they've been together as long as I can remember. You know what you're getting with Dana. It's the all shucksy, folksy, that whole approach. But they're going to play good, fundamentally sound basketball. So that'll be my last Lifetime Achievement Award, Dan Altman at Oregon.
Okay. Give me Mick Cronin.
Ooh.
Give me Mick. I was so skeptical of the fit at UCLA. I thought he was that Midwest, hard-nosed, Great Lakes kind of region guy from his time at Cincinnati. That's the guy I remember. And then he took it to Westwood and it translated, right? It makes the Final Four. It does play some high-flying offense. Last year was a rough year, but I'm buying Mick Cronin Big Ten coach. It may be a little bit of a reach, maybe a little bit of a flyer. Mick's had some of that upper-level success, and he's had a program with all the resources, all the support in the world. I don't think his seat was warm after last year. And I think he kind of fits the style that I was going with some of my previous picks. So maybe a little bit higher on Mick Cronin than some others, but I'm not mad at him as my 6th pick.
It's a pretty good one. And we can I'll go rapid fire here a little bit. Plug your ears, Nebraska fans. You may not like this.
You're going up the road to Omaha, aren't you?
Yep,
knew it.
Yeah. He's one of the more underappreciated, underrated coaches in the country. He's going into year 15 at Creighton, and the answer is Greg McDermott.
15 already. Holy smokes.
Year 15 for Greg McDermott in Omaha. The offense they run, you know what you're going to get. You know, the
Mhm.
let it fly, that whole thing. But I mean, it is reigned true. It has withstood the test of time. They have competed year in, year out in the Big East. And I think he's still one of the more underappreciated coaches nationally. So I will gladly take him with pretty good value as one as my second to last pick.
Okay, we will just give a couple other names that we passed over here at the end. I am going to go to the mid-major ranks, a guy that's established some value now, Brian Dutcher.
Ooh.
Brian Dutcher at San Diego State. I'm really impressed with him. Thought they were going to fall off more than they did last year. That's a defense-first guy, kind of built that program back up after the Steve Fisher era and everything that was going on there. Brian Dutcher's had some really good success. He's like Kelvin Sampson light. I mean, not the same guy, not the same approach and everything. That's a wildly consistent program out there at Viejas Arena. I like what he's doing. So give me Brian Dutcher here.
Absolutely. That's a great pick. One of his conference mates is going to be one of my honorable mentions. It's not the Mountain West coach you're thinking, but he's going to be one of my honorable mentions.
Okay.
But
final pick here.
Number
8.
I got to stick with my brand, man. We talked about him the last time I was on these airwaves. I think he's the top up and coming coach in the country. And with the job he's at, you may think up and coming, he's in the ACC, but I think the sky's the limit for this guy, and it's Micah Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
I talked about him with Matt Painter. Shrews brought the Brad Stevens, sets offense with him from Butler to West Lafayette, changed the way Purdue runs offense. Takes Penn State to the NCAA tournament. They win a game. Now he's kind of been lost in the shuffle in the ACC discourse, but with the heater they've been on in recruiting, I think it's clear that some people are bought into his vision. I'd be bought into it as well. I think he's on the fast track, to rise up the coaching ranks. So I will gladly put a rubber stamp on my team with Micah Shrewsbury.
Okay, since your portion of the draft is done, give me your top 4 or 5 tough cuts.
Leon Rice at Boise State was the Mountain West coach that I alluded to. I think he is the most underappreciated coach in the country. And I think, it's definitely, I am a Mountain West sicko through and through because I've got friends up and down that league. May she rest in peace. We're going to have to pour one out for Mountain West basketball here in a couple of years. But some other names. This is the Lifetime Achievement Award category. Rick Pitino is Rick Pitino. He's going to win basketball games regardless of where he's the head coach. And then my last 2 would be Mark Pope, which I know will be an eyebrow raiser.
That war chest though.
I don't think he's top 5 yet, but I think he could get there. I think he's going to do good things at Kentucky. And then we'll just do 3 because we'll just do 3. Those are the 3 guys that were next in line for me.
All right. None of those guys were actually on my super deep cuts list. So here are the guys I'm deciding between for my final pick. A couple in the established Power 5, Bruce Pearl, Buzz Williams. I'm between those guys. Established group of 5s, Randy Bennett is on my list.
That was my 4th guy.
There it is.
He slipped my mind. That was my 4th guy.
Mitch Henderson at Princeton got a lot of ties. I've also been on the John Becker train, but I'm not willing to pick him for this exercise. I am monitoring Darian DeVries and Josh Schertz. Those are guys on my list. Ryan Odom might get the Virginia job. I'm not completely sure yet. And then the reestablishing value category, a lot of names here. I put Calipari in reestablishing. He made some changes for Kentucky. Took him far too long, but he actually did. And he still got the pedigree I'm not necessarily buying. Dare I say Will Wade? That's
a good pick,
I'm there.
That's a good pick.
Chris Mack also in the running. But I got to go with Will Wade.
Yeah.
I got to go with the American gangster Will Wade. Just hand him the big ass bag. I know. But come on, the man can coach basketball. The man gets talent. Had McNeese playing some dang good basketball.
They're going to be playing some dang good basketball again. Just be forewarned. As long as he's there, he's going to be doing his thing. He was definitely he was a cut for me. I don't know where my brain blank went, but forgetting about Randy and forgetting about Will. But yeah, that's a ball coach, man. That's a ball coach. He's going to be back in the SEC before you know it.
We will tweet out the official rosters, but here we go. Jacob Bigelow, Dan Hurley, Bill Self, Matt Painter, TJ Olsenberger, and Scott Drew. His subs are Dana Altman, Greg McDermott, and Micah Shrewsbury. For me, I got Nate Oates, Kelvin Sampson, Mark Few, John Shire, Dusty May. My bench is Mick Cronin, Brian Dutcher, and Will Wade. Jacob, this was fun.
That was awesome, man. I appreciate you having me on and appreciate the time. Always good to talk a little basketball. And yeah, season will be here before we know it. Thanks for having me, Austin.
Ain't that the truth? We'll do it again soon. For Jacob, Austin, don't go anywhere. We got Lincoln East versus Lincoln Southeast coming up next on 93.7 The Ticket. Jay Foreman, Nick Sainert with you in just a sec.
The Rabbit Hole Bakery, located at 8th and Q in the Haymarket, is the ideal place for fresh breakfast items or desserts made daily. Cream puffs, cinnamon rolls, carrot cake, sweet potato pecan cookies, brownies, blondies. Do I need to keep going? What about bread pudding?